Take a look at this. We begin with another poll conducted after the release of Mueller's redacted report that shows President Trump hitting an all-time low. The Morning Consult Political poll has Trump's job approval rating dropping 5 points to 39%, tying the record low numbers he posted after his reaction to the deadly racist violence in Charlottesville in August of 2017. 57% disapprove of Trump's job performance, up 6 points since last week. This follows Trump hitting a 12-month low in the Ipsos Reuters poll, also conducted in the wake of the Mueller report's release. But while Trump is unpopular, so's impeachment. The Morning Consult Political poll finds only 34% support the beginning of impeachment proceedings. That is down from 39% in January. 48% are opposed. Joe?
Yeah. So this is, again, what I say all the time in politics. Sometimes when you win, you lose, and sometimes when you lose, you win. This is a great example of that. Also, we were all saying around the table after the Barr letter came out, and remember everybody ran out and started gloating, and it was on the Trump right. All were gloating. Oh, no this, no that, no collusion, no. Oh, this is just a witch hunt. Of course, this all assumed. It all assumed that Americans didn't see that everybody around Donald Trump during the campaign either ended up in jail or ended up doing deals with the FBI, and that the report shown one lie after another lie. So that's part one of it. But Willie, even more bitterly ironic for Donald Trump, I would think, is that here you have this poll where Trump usually does better in the Morning Consult poll than other polls, from what I've seen. But here you have him in this poll once again dropping to an all-time low, lowest since Charlottesville. And the reason why is because he's now got an attorney general who's doing an inside job for him, who's gaming the system, who Americans know aren't playing straightforward. And Donald Trump, the outsider, has become Donald Trump, the government insider who has rigged the system for himself. And Americans see it. They know it's a scam. They hear him lying about it. And they're punishing him at the polls.
Yeah, I mean, those are terrible approval numbers. Let's just put it bluntly. That's a terrible, if you're in the 30s, in now coming up in the third year of your presidency, that is a terrible place to be. And now people have seen, the Mueller report is in public view. Americans can read for themselves whether or not Bob Mueller could establish a conspiracy between the Trump campaign and the Russian government, which, by the way, is the headline that President Trump has taken from this, because it's true. That's what Bob Mueller in Volume 1 concluded. He has that headline, and yet you still see the numbers at 39%. That's just a terrible number for any president, but particularly coming off what's perceived by Trump supporters and by the president himself as good news. On the other side of it, when you look at the impeachment number at 34%, now you understand why Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, is holding conference calls with her members and saying, pump the brakes on the impeachment talk.
Right.
The investigations may lead us there, but we don't need to lead with the word impeachment, and I think you saw why in that number. Let's talk about that. House Democratic leaders promising to push forward with aggressive investigations into President Trump in the wake of the Mueller report, but refusing to commit to impeaching him. Four Democratic leadership aides tell NBC News during a conference call yesterday with rank-and-file members, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, her leadership team, and the chairs of major oversight committees outlined how they would move forward following the report's release. Sources say during the call, Pelosi told her fellow lawmakers, quote, "We have to save our democracy. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about saving our democracy," adding, "If it is what we need to do to honor our responsibility to the Constitution, if that's the place the facts take us, that's the place we have to go." But Speaker Pelosi rejected calls from several Democrats to begin the process of removing President Trump, saying that saving the democracy does not necessarily constitute impeachment. Pelosi telling her colleagues, "We don't have to go to articles of impeachment to obtain the facts. The presentation of facts. So, Casey, you've been reporting on this story. Nancy Pelosi having, I think it was an 87-minute conference call with anybody who could call into that line and saying exactly what we laid out there. I hear a lot of you out publicly calling for impeachment. Many of you are Elizabeth Warren's on the campaign trail on the Senate side calling for impeachment. Why does she want to pump the brakes on this talk?
Because she thinks it's a loser in 2020 in both the House and in the presidential race. And she's thought that kind of all the way along. Remember, she said, quote, he's not worth it, talking about the president. And the challenge for her, I would describe their overall strategy as this. Dig up as much information about the president as possible. The assumption is a lot of it is going to be negative. Get it out there so that voters have all of it and they can make their own decision in 2020. Because the reality is, what happens if the House votes to impeach the president? It's not going to remove him from office. So if your ultimate goal is to defeat President Trump, why would you go through a process that's political, divisive, perhaps hurts your chances of meeting that end goal in an election?
The politics of it is just that. And I would say that, Joe, the question I have for you is all along the way there have been some Republicans who have thought about the politics of this and have sided with Trump or have been a Trump lackey because they want to win their elections. And at some point, somebody needs to think about why we're doing what we're doing and what it's for, and wasn't it all about the country? And with that, I ask you, what is impeachment for? It's not a punishment. It's not a political sword. It's supposed to be a removal from office for someone who is unfit. And what does that Mueller report show you? I mean, to me, I don't even know why it isn't black and white clear. Having said that, Nancy Pelosi's job, I guess, is to worry about a lot more than just that.
Well, it is. And you and I disagree on this front. You think that Democrats should move forward with impeachment because that's their constitutional duty.
I don't think they need to talk about it every day, but I think they need to ask the questions.
But go where the evidence leads them, and I certainly understand that. I'm just talking as far as politics goes, and being part, Gene, of being part of a House of Representatives back in the 1990s who impeached Bill Clinton when he couldn't get prosecuted in the Senate, and it ended up we gave him a very nice departing gift, and that is a 60% approval rating. Americans are reflexively against impeachment. I always go back to John Roberts when he upheld Obamacare. He said, "Do not ask me to do for you from my bench what you can take care of in the voting booth in a year." And that's how voters have felt about impeachment. It's how they felt about it with Bill Clinton. It's how they feel about it with Donald Trump. We have an election in a year and a half, and you look at that Morning Consult poll, and it shows you Donald Trump's best hope for higher poll numbers and for re-election is for the Democrats to try to remove him from office through impeachment. Whether that's right, whether that's wrong, if your ultimate goal is removing Donald Trump from office, then impeachment politically is the worst way to go.
Yeah, well, I imagine you still have a few battle scars from the Bill Clinton impeachment.
We're just
however,
we're just stupid.
However, to Mika's point, the Constitution does not say, but forget about it if there's an election in a year. It doesn't say that. Right. It does say, as Lindsey Graham so eloquently put it in 1999 when he was one of the House prosecutors, you don't have to commit a crime to be removed from office if you're unfit, if you are not upholding the honor and integrity of the office. Now, clearly, this should be the House has to move deliberately, and it has to go forward. And the first step is not to immediately convene an impeachment inquiry. It's to let the committee chairman exercise their subpoenas and get the information and put it out. And Lord knows this will take time. And maybe they get to an actual impeachment inquiry, and maybe they don't. But they need to move forward, because guess what? If they don't push ahead, if they don't lean forward, I know somebody who surely will, and that's Donald Trump, and he's going to be pushing forward on this bogus counter narrative of the deep state and the coup attempt by angry Democrats and this and that, and it's going to. So you need to push, and I urge them to push.
Gene, you write about it in the Washington Post. We're going to be reading about that in our must-read op-eds in just a few minutes. Mike Barnicle, though, sometimes prosecutors find that discretion is a better part of valor. Sometimes there are cases that they know they can't win that they don't bring because they don't want to set a bad precedent. We could talk about baseball and Curt Flood, who wanted to be a free agent, and they never challenged that. The MLB, they didn't want to lose that case. In this case, Democrats can feel good about themselves, saying they're doing their constitutional duty, and then get rolled by the Senate, and Donald Trump's the big winner.
Joe, if you look at those numbers that we just posted up there, they are telling you one thing that's obvious to everyone walking a sidewalk in this country today, but maybe not so obvious to Democratic members of the House, and it is this. A majority of the American people know what they have in the Oval Office. They know they have a deceitful, manipulative guy who is ill-prepared and unsuited for the job. They know this. So going forward, the idea that the House is going to begin implementing impeachment proceedings, Gene just referred to the Constitution. The Constitution, there's no notation, no amendment in the Constitution that says, and it ought to, stop wasting our time. And I think if they do go forward with impeachment proceedings, a majority of Americans are going to think they are wasting our time, the voters' time. They're not getting anything done anyway, and now they're opening the door to continual, every day, multiple times a day, harassment, witch hunt from the President of the United States. Just have some hearings, get more evidence on the ground that people already know buttresses their claim about the President, incompetent, can't do the job, and let's get going toward an election.
We'll get back to this.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.